What's going on, YouTube? So in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to properly fill and bleed the coolant on a E30 BMW 325i or 325e. So to begin, this is your coolant reservoir. Recently I replaced a thermostat on this car, so there is no coolant in the system, as you can see inside the reservoir. So what I'm going to do, or what I like to do, is I take concentrated coolant. The reason I take concentrated coolant is because you get more coolant for your money. The 50-50 diluted stuff, you can use normal water and mix it with the concentrated and get more coolant essentially for less money. A lot of people say you're supposed to use BMW coolant. I'm not a believer of that. Any coolant or even water works fine, especially in the summer. So to begin, I'm going to fill up the canister. Now on E30s, bleeding the coolant is a little different. As you fill it, you're supposed to have that bleed screw right here open. The reason for this is because as you fill it, air is supposed to come out of this bleed screw. So what I'm going to do is I take my 8mm wrench, put it on the top, and it shouldn't be tight, it's a little tug. There you go. Now it's open. Take this off. You don't need it completely off, just have it loose. So now while it's loose, we can fill up the coolant. Alright, so as you fill the coolant, what I like to do is I like to put pressure on the hoses. So as the coolant's going in, I like to squeeze the hoses around, because that lets air out of the system and lets it come up. So let me fill the coolant up. I also like to fill the coolant up very high, pretty much past the full line when I'm bleeding, because that helps the air escape. Alright. So I got the whole canister of this in. And let's see. There's still a lot of air in the system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab another one filled with water, since I just put concentrate in there, and I'm going to keep filling it up. Alright, now I'm back, and I filled this container up with filtered water. I like to use filtered water because it gives me a little peace of mind that I'm not completely ruining the engine when I put water into it. So putting it in is a little tricky at first, but it's just water, so it doesn't matter if you spill it everywhere. Alright, so now it's filling up. It's basically at the top of the canister now. So I'm going to keep going. Keep going. Alright, there you go. Now it's at the top. So, what I like to do, as I said before, is I like to squeeze the hoses. And as you can see, they're already a little bit harder to squeeze. This one's completely aired out. This one's a little better. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fill it up some more. All the way to the top, and now I'm gonna start squeezing, and every time I squeeze, the level of coolant, or water in this case, goes down, and that's because it's filling up all the areas where there's air. Obviously this is not the full way to bleed coolant, but it makes the process a little easier when the engine's running, because some of it's already bled. So fill it up to the top and just squeeze. And this hose is completely filled with coolant right now. This one's already much better. So now I'm just going to keep squeezing this one, and every time I squeeze it, bubbles come up. So rinse and repeat. Alright, so now that I got this pretty much full, and I have these hoses relatively stiff. They're filled with coolant, they're not perfect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cap back on this canister, And I'm going to start the car and let coolant come out of the valve up here, which it has already been doing as I was filling it up before. So before I start the car, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten up the valve with my 8mm wrench. Not going to make it very tight, it's loosely snug, just like that, barely any pressure on it. So when I start the car, coolant's going to circulate. Hopefully the thermostat's going to open. And as it's running, I'm going to be opening this, letting coolant escape, and closing it, while keeping an eye on the level in the canister to make sure it's not low. And by doing so, hopefully the coolant should bleed out of the system. So now let me go start the car. Alright, now I got the car running. While it's running, you want to make sure the heat is on. That way the coolant goes into the heater core. So as the car is warming up, I'm going to put my wrench on the bleed screw, open it up a little bit, let some coolant come out, then I'm going to close it. Probably should use the other side. So I have it on this, as the engine's running, open it, let coolant come out, close it. And I was going to repeat this process a few times. I'm going to let the engine get up to temperature and start opening it more as it does so. So what you're looking for as you open and close the screw is air bubbles. Right now I'm getting a continuous stream of coolant, which is good. But hopefully every time I open it, some of the air bubbles and pressure release. Alright? So repeating the process over and over, opening and closing that screw. So as the car is still warming up, I like to squeeze the hoses like I was doing before, make sure they're getting stiff. This one's a little soft, this one's pretty good, this one's also pretty good. So that means there's still a little bit of air in the coolant because this is soft. It should be very stiff and hard to press. So I'm just going to keep opening it, letting coolant come out. And while you do this, it is also very important to keep your eye on the temperature gauge. Make sure everything's okay, not overheating, which in this case, the car is still warming up, hasn't overheated, which is a good sign so far. Alright, so after your car's been idling for a while, what you want to do is you want to give it a little gas, hold the gas down, and open the bleed screw as you're pressing the gas. As you press the gas, you're making the water pump spin faster. When it spins faster, it helps get some of the air out. Alright? And what you're looking for is a continuous stream of coolant, which in this case, when I open this, it's a pretty continuous stream. It's no bubbles, none of that. Also, inside the car, temperature gauge is looking how it should. Heat is on, full blast. When you put your hand next to the vent, you feel hot air. So now you just keep your eye on the temperature gauge and make sure it doesn't overheat. And that is how you bleed coolant. Alright, I've had the car idling for a little while, about 10 minutes or so. Temperature gauge looks good. Give it one last open of the screw. Don't see any bubbles. So now I'm going to take my wrench off, tighten it up, make it snug, and there you go. That is how you successfully bleed coolant on an E30 325i or 325e. Once again, thank you for watching, and if you have any questions about the process, feel free to let me know in the comments below.